Welcome back to Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. Well, Pidilite reported a weaker than expected result for Q4. Their consumer business volume saw just a 7% growth. The expectation was a 9 to 11% range. The company has reinvested some cost savings back into the market development efforts and says that near-term environment is likely to remain uncertain. Mangalam actually caught up with Bharat Puri, who's the MD of Pidilite Industries. He began by asking him about the Q4 performance and what the way forward could look like. Listen in to what they had to say.
See, as far as the quarter is concerned, frankly, the quarter is pretty much as per our expectations. If you look at our consumer and bazaar businesses, they've grown at about 10%. We've also done a major route-to-market change for one of our major businesses, actually the Araldite business. That probably has impacted growth by 200 to 300 basis points. But that's part of the game that will come back in the next year. But overall, we've always said we'd like to grow, in a volume sense at GDP growth rates. And in good times, probably try and grow 1 to 2 times GDP. That's what we're tracking. You take a step back, you look at the year. We've grown our consumer businesses over 20%. We've grown volumes very healthily in double digits. And the good news is that margins are coming back. If you look at the fourth quarter, gross margins have improved substantially. What is encouraging, obviously, for us a lot more is if I look at my March exit margins, they are frankly in my guidance range of 20% and above. So at an overall level, that's why we said we're looking forward to the future with cautious optimism. And last year, from our perspective, was a year on expectations, very healthy top-line growths, and a returning bottom line. Obviously, we're all aware of the unprecedented raw material situation in the first 2 quarters, which therefore translated almost up to the third. But at an overall level, right now, the tailwind seem to be good construction and infrastructure demand. The other tailwind, obviously, seems to be moderated raw material prices. For us, also, Q4 has seen the beginning of return of rural and semi-urban growth. This is the first quarter of the 4 quarters where actually rural and semi-urban has grown faster than urban, and we hope that will continue. We'll declare success maybe a quarter or 2 quarters hence. So which is why we said we're looking at the future with cautious optimism.
Yeah, I understand, the optimism with the kind of tailwinds that you've been speaking about. I don't understand where the caution is coming from. Can you give us a sense?
See, right now with all of for example, if I look at my B2B businesses, anybody who's export-oriented, pretty much businesses are suffering in the West, both in America as well as Europe. We're seeing very muted demand conditions. Customers of ours who we supply to here in India who are in export-oriented industries, it could be leather, it could be chemicals, it could be textile emulsions. We're seeing muted demand there, and we're just waiting to see that, listen, the trend of rural and semi-urban demand returning is a secular one. It's something that is consistent before, cautious optimism turns to regular optimism.
All right. You've always maintained double-digit volume growth as your aspiration with 20 to 24% margins. You said that the fourth quarter, your exit rate was 20% in March itself. Just wanted to understand on both the volumes and the margin front, in FY24, will this be back-ended or do we see some recovery consistently throughout the year?
No, frankly, you will see the recovery through the year. You will actually see the recovery from Q1 itself because Q1 and Q2 were high raw material price quarters, and we are seeing that, fortunately for us, raw material prices remain moderated. They haven't come back to their all-time lows, which we don't expect them to either. But they're in a range which can be managed, and therefore it will not be back-ended. Frankly, it will start from the first quarter itself.
That's on the margins and the volumes, is it?
Volumes on a consistent basis. As we've said, we want to grow 1 to 2 times GDP, and that's going to be, as normalcy returns. In fact, some of our, pricing, we're going to give back to the market if the raw material prices become more muted. So our single line credo is profitable volume growth.
Right. So VAM is close to around what, $11.50, $11.80 right now? And,
that's right, between $1,000 and $1,200, yeah.
And you expect it to sustain around these levels itself?
That's our current expectation, barring any black swan events.
Yep, let's hope no black swan events come in. But what was also interesting is that you started dabbling into decorative paints, interior paints during the quarter. What exactly explains that? Because I remember having this conversation with you some 3 or 4 quarters in a row, and you said that no, you won't enter this space until you see a differentiated product. What is different about Pidilite paints, and what's your strategy here?
Firstly, Pidilite never dabbles in anything. Whatever we do with great consideration. The fact of the matter is, in large parts of India, Mangalam, you must understand, we actually call on more paint outlets than all other paint companies barring the leader. Okay? And therefore, we've had a consistent demand from a lot of our dealers. You know, we're no strangers to paint. We're already in exterior paints because of the overlap with waterproofing. So we already have a whole range of wood finishes via our joint venture with ICA, which is called ICA Pidilite, where you can see we've been doing extremely well. So we've had a whole set of dealers telling us, listen, why don't you just complete the range so we can, therefore deal fully with you rather than for us having to deal with different companies for different ranges. And what we felt was, given our overall distribution advantage, given our full familiarity with the category, given our reach, let's look at a few select geographies and see how we complete the range. So by no means is this a full-fledged, 5-plant launch, so on and so forth, etc. This is a range completion exercise where we are saying that, listen, dealers should be able to satisfy their customers with one company's range, and therefore in select geographies we've launched a range of decorative paints.
So should other paint companies which are already worried about the big entrants be worried, or should you worry about them getting into your products because they also would like to complete the range for their dealers?
First, let's start with the fact that every paint company has entered all of our categories, and they're most welcome to. It's a free country. You can see our performance after their entry. And frankly, as leaders, you will always expect competition only to increase rather than, remain constant or decrease. As far as paint companies are concerned, it's a market which is anywhere between 60 and 70,000 crores. It's growing in double digits. I think there's space enough for everybody. And as I said, we're not looking at this as our major area still remains. As we said, we're a home improvement company. We've just improved our range of home improvement.
Interesting way to look at it. In the industrial business itself, you said the revenue was a problem because of the problems that we saw in export slowdown. But are the margins back to normalized levels? Or do you see...
Yes, as far as the B2B businesses are concerned, actually normal margins returned. In fact, we've had to pass on some of the reductions, which is normal in B2B businesses. But yes, margins are largely back to normal levels as far as the B2B businesses is concerned. The concern, frankly, is the top line.
All right, you have about a year and a half left. Mr. Puri, what are the unfinished goals that you have?
See, as they say, the goals of an organization are never finished. We are on our way together to creating a high-performance, innovative Indian multinational where it's a pleasure to work. We will continue to be high-performing. We will continue to be innovative. We will make sure that, we are a place where it's a pleasure to work, and that journey is never unfinished, is never finished.
All right, interesting conversation there we had with Bharat Puri. What was most interesting was the fact that they have entered decorative paints in 5 or 6 geographies, and let's see how they compete with the biggies as well. And Bharat Puri incidentally is ex-Asian Paints, so he was responsible for big growth in Asian Paints itself.
I remember you telling that to us earlier as well, that this is a space that they're entering into, but they have proper knowledge here. It's not like they don't.
Wouldn't it just be a transition, a natural transition?
It would be a natural progression, but
considering the distribution they have.
Exactly, and the thing is that that's the same for all the other paint companies as well, right? Getting into adhesives, waterproofing and all of that. So it'll all eventually, the lines across all the companies will blur.
And
perhaps.
all these decorative paint companies are doing very well. I mean, we just saw the numbers from Kansai Nerolac. That's been pretty good. That's also in the same segment, right?
That's in the decorative paints, yes, but they have a higher share of revenue coming in from automotive paints and all of that as well. But what we'll do is take a short break, come back, get you more on the markets and individual stocks. Pidilite, after that conversation, of course, recovered from the lows currently in the green.